All right, all right, all right. That's my thing. Been doing it since I started. I thought I'd get on here a little bit before tonight's members only live stream and put something up here that kind of intrigued me earlier. It's so sad that how it turned out, but I wanted to let you guys know about this case because there's so many similarities to some of the other cases that we've been discussing, and I'll let you parallel what case I'm talking about because this is almost like a copycat type thing. It's so disturbing in so many ways. So I hope that you guys are doing all right. Hope that you guys are enjoying your day. I don't know how it is over there where you're at, but it's 108 degrees here in Texas. I could go and put a pan, grease it, put some cookies on the tailgate of my truck, and I'd have cookies. I guarantee it for at least 30 minutes, which sounds like a pretty good idea. I don't know about y'all, but that sounds like a pretty good idea. Hey, Anime. Hey, Aquarius. Hey, Rondi. Low 70s. Wow, that's nice. I don't have a pool. Otherwise, I'd be in the pool. Plus, I'm on call, so I can't like be totally enjoying something until I'm off call because that phone could ring at any time. And that's what I wanted to tell you guys as well. If I have to hop off here all of a sudden, don't think I got angry or agitated. I might have to go regulate some juveniles. So if that happens, I might not even get a chance to say goodbye. So y'all just know that. But let's watch this because I want you guys to see it. And it was pretty disturbing to me. I don't know how you guys will react to it, but here we go.
Most people don't even think twice before posting a photo or a memory on social media. It's the 21st century and social media has taken over the lives of everyone. Although it's a great way to keep in touch with tons of people very quickly, you never know what evils may be lurking behind the shadowy gray areas of social media. Celeste Mono, a thriving girl with a seemingly perfect life, had no idea that someone, a stranger, was obsessed with her to the point where she was being mercilessly stalked. Celeste never even imagined in her wildest dreams that she would be attacked in her own home, but she was about to witness just how nightmarish an obsession can really get. Celeste Mono was born on November 22nd, 1996, in Italy, and had an older half brother, Jaden, and a younger brother, Alessandro. When Celeste was still young, her family moved to Melbourne, Australia, where Celeste graduated high school and attended RMIT University in 2015, where she studied criminology and psychology. Celeste had dreams of becoming a psychologist and wanted to help people by understanding what went on in the complex human brain. After she graduated college, she worked at a call center called Serco in Mill Park, Melbourne, and Celeste was amazing at her job. So much so that she climbed up the ranks and soon found herself promoted to the position of team leader. She also met a guy, Chris Risdale, at her workplace, and the two began dating. Celeste was defined as the epitome of kindness. She was a beautiful girl with a bright future ahead of her. She loved to dance and was even a cheerleader in her high school. Chris, Celeste's boyfriend, adored her and her personality. He defined Celeste as a treasure and that he was.
It's sad that it's usually the kindest people that get done this way. Or look at this couple right here. They look pretty happy, don't they? They look like they found the right person to be in a relationship with, and they look really happy. And like most people, whenever you're having a happy moment, I call it they post it to the highlight reel, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, X, Snapchat, you name it. They're going to post it somewhere.
was really lucky for her to have chosen him to be her significant other. Celeste was also super close with her family. She and her brothers got along amazingly, and Celeste was very close with her mother, Aggie. She lived with her mother after graduation in Mernda, where the rest of this case takes place. Aggie and Celeste had the perfect mother-daughter relationship, and Celeste almost always shared everything with Aggie. Celeste and Aggie also had a nighttime ritual in which Aggie would always tuck Celeste in before bed, and they would talk about their days before calling it a night. Their bond was just so heartwarming because no matter her age, Celeste always turned to her mother for advice and comfort. Overall, Celeste was a young woman who had a lot to explore, look forward to, and experience. But things wouldn't be the same for long, and Celeste would meet her tragic end just days before her 24th birthday. And that too in her own home, a place that most people assume is safe, no matter what. Before we keep going with today's case, just a quick reminder that if you subscribe to the channel, you'll be able to see all my latest videos the moment they upload. It's totally free and really helps keep the channel growing, so I'd really appreciate it. But anyway, on November 14th, 2020, Celeste and Chris went on a brunch date in a rooftop bar in Melbourne, where they took lots of pictures. Since the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions were finally easing, Celeste and Chris could finally meet each other and have a little brunch and catch up. Celeste had also decided to finally make her relationship with Chris official on social media, with a very happy and heartwarming picture. Both Celeste and Chris were serious about each other, and it was about time that they made things official everywhere. Fast forward to November 15th, 2020, which was a Sunday. Celeste posted the photo of her and Chris on her Instagram, then spent the rest of the day watching a movie. Celeste was also in the midst of making plans for her upcoming 24th birthday with her mother. As nighttime rolled around, Celeste and Aggie went about their normal nightly ritual, and Aggie told Celeste that she loved her, to which Celeste responded, "I love you more. Good night." Tragically,
That is what's so tragic about some of these cases is, the last message that you get from your loved one is, "I love you. Have a good night." And think of, you want to pay some of these bills? Think of some of the cases that we've looked at. Um, that's the last message that they've gotten from their loved ones is good night. I love you. I'll see you soon. And then bam, that's it.
this was the last time Aggie would ever tell her daughter goodnight, because at around 4:10 a.m. on November 16th, 2020, Aggie woke up to the sound of glass shattering. She got up and ran straight to Celeste's room because the sound clearly came from her bedroom. When she stopped in front of Celeste's bedroom door, she saw the most horrifying scene a mother could ever witness. 23-year-old Celeste lay on her bed, motionless and covered in blood. Celeste's bedroom window was smashed and there was glass covering the floor. Aggie couldn't believe her eyes. Just hours before, Celeste was alive and talking to her, and now Aggie was holding Celeste close to her, begging for her to open her eyes and say something. A mother should never have to see her daughter like that, and it's a burden that no one should have to bear, let alone a parent. The emergency services were immediately called, and when they arrived, they were horrified to see how Celeste's room looked. It was a gruesome scene. A distraught Aggie begged the first responders to save her daughter's life, but sadly, Celeste had already passed away. When Aggie was struck with the news that Celeste was truly gone, she finally understood the gravity of the horrendous situation, and in a mix of sheer hysteria and rage, she stated, "He killed her." This statement immediately called the police's attention, and they wanted to inquire more while Celeste's body was taken for an autopsy. It was later revealed that Celeste had been attacked 23 times with a knife, and it was a fierce attack, resulting in a lot of defensive wounds on her body, specifically her arms and forearms.
23 times all across their body, defensive wounds. And listen to how long this took. It's going to shock you.
The fact that such a crime could take place in such a tiny window of time, it's just appalling. This all unfolded within a few seconds that it took Aggie to leave her bedroom and make her way to Celeste's room. And their house wasn't that big, so it didn't take her long at all. Her chest, arms, and stomach were covered in wounds. According to police, the attack must have lasted for about 2 minutes. And now, They're the professionals, so by all means, believe them over the opinion of someone like me. I'm just some guy on the internet. But the fact that this crime took even 2 minutes seems nonsensical to me. Like I said a moment ago, Aggie jumped into action the second she heard the glass break.
2 minutes. Long enough for her mom to leave her room and walk to her room. She hears the glass breaking. Her daughter is stabbed. She walks from her room back to her daughter's room, and she's already dead.
Break in Celeste's room, and it doesn't take 2 minutes to jump from one room to another. In my mind, I see no way this could have lasted more than a few seconds, and it just shows how rage-filled and frantic this perpetrator must have been. It's just so hard to wrap your head around the fact that Celeste was viciously attacked and lost her life in such a short period of time. That too in her own bedroom, and just a couple of doors down from her mother's room. As the police searched for more evidence from Celeste's bedroom, they also asked Aggie about her very bizarre accusation. This was when more information about who he was surfaced, and the police were left stunned. The most bizarre and infuriating part out of all of this was the fact that Celeste and Aggie had actually gone to the police several times to report this man, but investigators were of little help. Police got to know about a potential person who wanted Celeste, and his obsession that eventually led to him ending her life. And that person was someone Celeste worked with, a 35-year-old man named Louis Seiko.
She was 23, he was 35. What is it with these individuals? I know what it is. I'm just asking you guys if you know what it is about the infatuation of wanting something you can't have, and if you can't have it, you're going to destroy it. This puts this puts into context so many other things that you hear about every day. Stalked and stabbed 23 times.
So, who was Louis Seiko, and why would he attack Celeste so barbarically? Louis Seiko was born in 1984 in Iraq. His parents were Christian, and he was the oldest of 5 children. In 1992, Louis' family was granted a humanitarian visa, and the entire family migrated to Australia. Louis was defined as a sweet and caring young boy, but he was also a loner and spent most of his time in his room. When he got to college, that's when Louis' personality started to shift, and he became even more withdrawn. He'd never been in a relationship before, and was mostly seen on his own. After graduation, Louis had been unemployed for the most part, until April of 2018, when he got a job at Serco, the same call center where Celeste worked. In fact, he was in the same team that Celeste led, but up until that point, Louis didn't really know about Celeste. But this changed very soon. Turns out Louis would only hold this job for a short time, and in June of 2019, he received a notice that he was fired based on performance issues. On his last day of work, Louis was escorted out of the office by none other than Celeste Mano. This was the fateful day when Louis really took notice of Celeste, and he was immediately attracted to her. As they were saying their goodbyes, Celeste shook Louis' hand out of courtesy, wishing him luck for his future. But something really odd happened afterwards. Louis, while still holding her hand, pulled Celeste close and kissed her cheek before walking the other way. This action left Celeste embarrassed and probably pretty uncomfortable. She was caught quite off guard, understandably.
You females in the chat, how would you have handled that? If you were walking somebody out and you were the supervisor and you said, okay, today's your last day. Have a nice life. Thank you for working with us. And they lean over and kiss you on the cheek. How would you handle that? Would you have slapped them? Would you have said that's inappropriate? She's young, though. She's 20 something years old. You know, instead of holding a boundary, a lot of times, some, not all, but some younger women will play it off as no big deal, hoping just to get the situation over with.
Afterwards, when she came home, she even filled her mom, Aggie, in about this weird detail. Aggie, thinking nothing of it, pacified Celeste by saying that Louis probably had an innocent crush on her. But in my book, making a physical advance towards someone like that That's not innocent. A few nice compliments, that's innocent. But Celeste, chalking this incident up to Louis just being a little weird, decided to let it go. But Louis was nowhere near done with Celeste. In fact, this encounter led him to develop a strong, one sided infatuation with Celeste, and he knew that he wanted to have something more than a professional relationship with her. About a week later, Celeste received a message on Instagram, and it was from Louis. But the contents of the message left Celeste feeling uneasy. They started with somewhat of an innocent tone, with Louis stating that he loved Celeste and that he couldn't eat.
Let's read this letter. He sent her this text out on Instagram. It said, "I'm sorry I can't stop thinking about you. I've never felt like this about anybody in my entire life. It's bordering along a OCD. I'm totally infatuated with you, captivated and fascinated by you. You're all I think about. After leaving you, my productivity in my personal life and my new job has been impacted. This obsession with you, which is a crush, is an addictive and destructive feeling that is interfering with my ability to concentrate, deal with others, and go about my daily routine." So, those of you that have been in true crime for a while, you read this or you're reading it along with me. What are some things that stick out to you in this Instagram message that you've learned so far about individuals and how to profile them into potentially being harmful people to be around? What the one part of this that you have learned is a red flag? Can you type that in the chat? I just got the chills. Brigade, that means he was aware of the problem. He made a choice. Exactly. Right. Right here where he says, my job has been impacted. This obsession with you, which is a crush, is an addictive and destructive feeling. So this is a feeling that he cannot overcome, and that's his own doing. She had nothing to do with this. She didn't even entertain it. But yet this person has a crush that is addictive and destructive and interfering with the ability to concentrate, deal with others, and go about the daily routine. Of course, he is blaming her. That's gaslighting, right? He's blaming her.
Sleep or function at his new job without her, how he thought about her every single day, and even asked if Celeste felt the same way about him. Celeste initially tried to politely deal with the messages by herself, saying that she appreciated Louis's kind words, but she only had professional thoughts about him and wasn't romantically interested in him. She also proceeded to wish him well in his future. Celeste gently rejected Louis and blocked him on Instagram. But Louis clearly didn't get the message. Louis's obsession with Celeste reached new heights, and her rejection only added fuel to the fire. Louis made dozens of fake Instagram accounts just to reach out to Celeste and harass her, all in the name of his quote love for her. The messages intensified in creepiness, and they even turned sexual at one point. One of Louis's very eerie messages stated, "Celeste, if you had my body for a day, what would you do to me?" Now, this is just ridiculous and highly inappropriate. Celeste was left with no choice but to sternly answer Louis, and she said, quote, "Stop contacting me. This is making me very uncomfortable. Please respect my wishes and stop." Even after Celeste blocked every single fake account, Louis didn't stop, and his messages and incessant harassment made Celeste very upset and understandably scared.
And sometimes that's how you're raised, be polite, set your boundaries, they'll take that you're serious, and they'll leave you alone eventually. But there's some individuals that, as you can see, do not take redirection well. He created multiple Instagram accounts and was emailing her up to 140 times a day or sending her messages up to 140 a day.
This was noticeable to even people around Celeste, including her mother, Aggie, and Celeste's boyfriend, Chris. They just felt so powerless in the situation. Celeste was uncomfortable and losing sleep over it. She initially thought that Louis would get bored and eventually leave her alone, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. His obsession took a rageful turn, and in one of his frequent messages from yet another fake account, he said, quote, "My impression of you has changed. You're no different to the majority of women. I will devote every ounce of energy I have to climbing up and proving to the world that I am somebody. That's my promise to you, my final contact with you." After 6 months of seeing her daughter enduring this nonsense, Aggie finally convinced Celeste to file a report against Louis. When the woman went to the police station and told officers what was happening, instead of helping a distressed woman who was very clearly scared, they told Celeste that Louis hadn't committed a crime, and it was best that they just ignored him. When Celeste said that she'd been ignoring him for the last 6 months, the police officer advised her.
Okay, for 6 months he's been cyber stalking her. How is that not a crime? How is that not a crime? With all the messages and all the love bombing and everything else, how's that not a crime? The police get me sometimes, bro.
Her to get off social media, as this was the norm if someone put their life out there for everyone to see. Unfortunately, stalking claims are often taken lightly by the police, and there really aren't any solid laws where constant harassment from a stranger could be penalized. Now, there are obviously some laws in place about this sort of thing, but they're so vague and poorly understood that in the vast majority of cases, police don't bother with harassment cases like this until a crime has actually been committed. But the problem with that is that more often than not, by the time a crime has been carried out, it's too late. Now, I don't know about.
He's right. Usually the crime that's committed is murder. Usually the victim has no coming back from all. Okay. No, I didn't get a call back. It had something to do with the internet, it said. I don't know what happened. I switched the window and it booted me out of here. Okay, let me rewind it a little bit.
Until a crime has actually been committed. But the problem with that is that more often than not, by the time a crime has been carried out, it's too late. Now, I don't know about you, but in the vast majority of cases, this means that a police presence is more or less useless. Just think about what happened with Trump at his rally in mid-2024. There were not only police present, but also Secret Service stationed every few feet. And we all know how that played out. It doesn't matter if police are present. They can't legally do a whole heck of a lot until a crime has actually been carried out. And love him or hate him, for Trump, that almost meant it was too late for him as well. But anyway, the trip to the police station was futile for Celeste and Aggie, as the officers didn't even make a report or write down Louis's name for future reference. Unfortunately, Celeste had to deal with Louis's vulgar and very derogatory messages for another 6 months. But things only escalated.
So she dealt with that for 6 months and then she reported it, had to deal with it for another 6 months? That's insane.
Celeste would find Louis's car parked outside her workplace. She received almost 140 messages from Louis from multiple fake accounts, and horrifically, Louay also found out the suburb where Celeste lived by following her home from work one day. And that's a nightmare for anyone who's getting stalked. Celeste, at one point, even confided in a coworker and admitted that Louay's messages were scaring her and that she was sure that Louay was going to take her life. Celeste was legitimately scared for her life at this point, and it was decided that enough was enough. Some serious action needed to be taken against Louay. Celeste and Aggie went to the police station again after another 6 months. And finally, they met a cooperative police officer who advised the women to file for a personal safety intervention against Louay, which they did. Surprisingly, Louay tried to contest the order in court, but it was obviously denied. For a month, everything seemed normal for Celeste again, but it was short-lived. On August 15th, 2020, just 3 months before the horrific attack on Celeste, Louay sent a 3-page letter to Celeste, pleading that she take back the intervention order. He assured her that he would move on from her after she withdrew the order and the charges. He even ended his letter with a smiley face, which is just so creepy. Now, Louay's action of sending the letter to Celeste was, in fact, a breach of the intervention order itself.
I'm not trying to be funny here, but you notice anything about this dude right off the bat? Type it in the chat if you notice anything particular about this individual right off the bat.
And when Celeste let the police know about this, they finally had a reason to act. Because after all this back and forth, Louay had finally committed a crime. Louay was arrested at the end of August 2020 for breaching the safety intervention order. And you would think that everything would be normal again, and Celeste would be safe from this man's harassment. But that wouldn't happen. Oddly, within a day, Louay was released, and this time he was angry with Celeste. He couldn't believe that Celeste would go this far and have him arrested for contacting her. Louay truly believed that he was entitled to Celeste and that she would be lucky to have him. After his release, Louay's torment of Celeste once again continued with a vengeance. And just after his release, he sent a livid and seemingly final message to Celeste, which stated, "I know you rejected me. I get it. I'm like dirt to you. I get it. I know you hate me. I get it." Around the same time, he bought a hammer and a knife from a local supermarket. And for the next 3 months, Louay went radio silent. Celeste didn't receive any messages from him. But knowing what we know now, he was lurking in the shadows, waiting, biding his time to find the perfect opportunity.
So, if this ever happened to any of you, whether you're on replay or whether you're watching this live, just because it goes silent does not necessarily mean that the individual has given up or they've stopped doing what they're doing. They might be looking at you from a distance, they might be actually watching your every move, they might be preparing for the crime. So, don't get complacent and think that just because there's silence, it means they moved on. Stay hyper vigilant and continue to take care of yourself because, as you're going to see, turns out very bad.
Well, he did. And that was the photo that Celeste posted with Chris of their date on the 14th of November. Celeste thought that Louay had finally let his obsession with her go, and she was feeling joyful and free after what felt like an eternity. This was why she went on a date with Chris and even made her relationship with him public. But little did she know that this very photo would trigger Louay, who was still secretly watching her after all this time, waiting to commit the unthinkable. Leading up to the terrible day of November 16th, Louay had apparently figured out which home was Celeste's by peering in the driveway and finding her car parked there, and even had her home floor plan mapped out to find where Celeste's bedroom was. Now, how he got a hold of this, we don't really know.
Did you hear that? He had her home's floor plan mapped out so he could figure out which room was Celeste. So you're telling me that this couldn't have happened in other crimes that we talk about? Where people couldn't have been doing all this stuff behind the scenes? This is terrible right here. So many similarities. Whoa. What'd I do? Where'd it go? I don't know. I lost it. Start right there.
Than not, by the time a crime has been carried out, it's too late. Now, I don't know about you, but in the vast majority of cases, this means that a police presence is more or less useless. Just think about what happened with Trump at his rally in mid 2024. There were not only police present, but also Secret Service stationed every few feet. It was decided that enough was enough. Some serious action needed to be taken against LeWay. Celeste and Aggie went to the police station again after another 6 months. And finally, they met a cooperative police officer who advised the women to file for a personal safety intervention against LeWay, which they did. Surprisingly, LeWay tried to contest the order in court, but it was obviously denied. For a month, everything seemed normal for Celeste again, but it was short-lived. On August 15th, 2020, just 3 months before the horrific attack on Celeste, LeWay sent a 3-page letter to Celeste, pleading that she take back the intervention order. He assured her that he would move on from her after she withdrew the order and the charges. He even ended his letter with a smiley face, which is just so creepy. Now, LeWay's action of sending the letter to Celeste was, in fact, a breach of the intervention order itself. And when Celeste let the police know about this, they finally had a reason to act. Because after all this back and forth, LeWay had finally committed a crime. LeWay was arrested at the end of August 2020 for breaching the safety intervention order. And you would think that everything would be normal again, and Celeste would be safe from this man's harassment. But that wouldn't happen. Oddly, within a day, LeWay was released, and this time, he was angry with Celeste. He couldn't believe that Celeste would go this far and have him arrested for contacting her. LeWay truly believed that he was entitled to Celeste, and that she would be lucky to have him. After his release, LeWay's torment of Celeste once again continued with a vengeance. And just after his release, he sent a livid and seemingly final message to Celeste, which stated, "I know you rejected me. I get it. I'm like dirt to you. I get it. I know you hate me. I get it." Around the same time, he bought a hammer and a knife from a local supermarket. And for the
What makes these individuals believe that you're even that important in this person's life? Like he's saying, I know you dislike me. I get it. I know I'm like dirt to you. I get it. So they're in their mind, they're answering for you as if you are connected to them somehow, even though they have to continue to prove their worth to you. And once they get to this point where they feel like they're not worthy enough, you just saw he bought a knife and a hammer at the local grocery store.
next 3 months, LeWay went radio silent. Celeste didn't receive any messages from him. But knowing what we know now, he was lurking in the shadows, waiting, biding his time to find the perfect opportunity. Well, he did. And that was the photo that Celeste posted with Chris of their date on the 14th of November. Celeste thought that LeWay had finally let his obsession with her go, and she was feeling joyful and free after what felt like an eternity. This was why she went on a date with Chris and even made her relationship with him public. But little did she know that this very photo would trigger LeWay, who was still secretly watching her after all this time, waiting to commit the unthinkable.
Sorry, I backtracked it a little bit.
Leading up to the terrible day of November 16th, LeWay had apparently figured out which home was Celeste's by peering in the driveway and finding her car parked there, and even had her home floor plan mapped out to find where Celeste's bedroom was. Now, how he got a hold of this, we don't really know. But LeWay had studied every single photo of Celeste, looking for details of her bedroom so that he knew exactly what her room looked like, which is just so terrifying. He was ready to launch a violent attack on Celeste because, in his mind, if he couldn't have her, no one could. On the 16th of November, at around 4:10 a.m., LeWay climbed the side fence of the Mono home and smashed Celeste's bedroom window with a hammer. This was the sound that Aggie woke up to. LeWay then proceeded to enter Celeste's bedroom and attacked her at least 23 times in less than 2 minutes, according to police. Then he left through the same window and fence with traces of blood found on it, leaving Celeste to be discovered by her mother. A neighbor's CCTV camera also caught LeWay zipping out of the street around the same time that the paramedics arrived. And after hearing from Aggie about the year-long cyber torment that Celeste went through, the police knew they had to arrest LeWay immediately. But they didn't have to, because after attacking Celeste, LeWay made a beeline for the police station. showed up with an injured hand and confessed to the crime while handing Celeste's address to the officer. He stated, "She's dead. She's dead. Go have a look. You know what happened. It's your fault." And truer words may never have been spoken. In my eyes, this certainly is the fault of the local police. LeWay even tried to coerce the police officer to fire at him so that he could evade the law and essentially pass away with Celeste. But the police cornered him and he was arrested. As soon as LeWay was in custody, he was charged. And while searching his phone, the police found out that he was monitoring Celeste closely on Instagram, along with hundreds of screenshots of Celeste and Chris. Not only this, when officers searched LeWay's laptop, they found Google searches pertaining to Chris, her boyfriend, the bar where Celeste and Chris had their date, and investigators even found Celeste's home floor plans. But again, no idea how he got a hold of these. After being arrested, LeWay was awaiting trial, which took almost 3 years to reach completion. This delay was due to the COVID-19 restrictions, but a major part of it was because of LeWay. He tried to stretch the trial as much as he could, and he even tried to use the mental health stance as a way to evade the law. He did eventually plead guilty, but he tried everything he could to get away with his crime, pulling out.
I believe that the current Idaho 4 case, if they did have a mental health clause in Idaho, Mr. Koberger would be attempting to use that avenue. I believe it with a lot of who I am. I believe that that would be something that he would be using. This trial, this dude is something else.
All the stops to either prove himself as insane or completely innocent, even though he had already confessed at this point. LeWay tried to convince the jury that he was mentally unstable and that he was suffering from an episode of psychosis at the time that he attacked Celeste. On top of it all, he would fire his lawyers right before the trial, pushing the process back even more. He even represented himself at times, and he also tried to delay the court proceedings by maintaining that he only attacked Celeste twice, not 23 times, as the coroner stated in the autopsy report.
What?
LeWay was adamant to prove himself to be mentally unfit, so that he wouldn't get such a harsh sentence. As a result of which...
Look at those eyes. You ever notice killers have those far away eyes that they look right through you? Look at those eyes. He denies stabbing her 23 times. What the fuck? Of course. You just blacked out the other 21, right?
Which a lot of psychiatric evaluations were done on LeWay. And one doctor in particular, Dr. Dargy, said that LeWay suffered from hallucinations and was forced by an imaginary entity called Isha to act like a criminal. But it was also Dr. Dargy who issued a warning in court and stated that LeWay was likely to reoffend if he ever got out, and that if he gathered sympathy from female prison guards, then things could take a turn for the worse. Ultimately, it was found that LeWay was just an egotistical, self-absorbed individual who couldn't bear the thought of being rejected by Celeste, and he was actually faking symptoms of mental health issues. You have to be a different level of sick to come up with such an elaborate plan to try to get a lesser sentence for taking the life of an innocent and amazing young woman who didn't even want you. It's just unbelievable. Celeste's family, especially her mother Aggie and her brothers, wanted LeWay to be sent to prison forever. And the prosecution even stated that the crime was premeditated, given that he bought the weapons 3 months prior, and that the nature of the crime was angry and violent. LeWay had every intention to end Celeste's life that night because he saw how happy she was with Chris, and that the couple's photo was almost mocking LeWay, which was why he lashed out and attacked Celeste, ultimately leading to her tragic demise.
See, in their mind, that's exactly how they see it. You're mocking me by being with this other guy, by being happy with this other guy, by being normal with this other guy. That should be me. That could be me. Why won't you give me a chance? Why do you feel so low about me? Well, I'm going to show you that I'm just as worthy or more. And then once they snap, bam.
After 3 long years, on February 29th, 2024, LeWay Seiko, who is now 39 years old, was sentenced to 36 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Justice Dixon went on to explain that life imprisonment couldn't be warranted in this case because LeWay had a rare and extreme personality disorder, and this affected his mental state at the time of the crime. Justice Dixon also went on to emphasize the trauma Celeste's family went through because of LeWay. But it's just so appalling to see a man who, mind you, wasn't even remorseful for savagely attacking Celeste get sentenced to what's essentially nothing for the damages he inflicted on a once happy family. He took the rest of this young woman's life, but he only had to pay with a portion of his own. Celeste's family was very obviously devastated with the sentence, as you can expect. Aggie, who came forward with her thoughts after the sentencing, said that the investigators and courts showed LeWay mercy, but they showed her daughter none when she contacted the police twice for help. At Celeste's funeral, more than 100 people gathered to bid her farewell. Aggie was completely crestfallen by her daughter's passing, lamenting the fact that she'd never get the chance to see Celeste as a bride or watch her become a mother. According to Aggie, the lack of interest on the police's part is what led Celeste to her death. Celeste's brothers, Jaden and Alessandro, were struck with grief as they had to say goodbye to a gentle and caring soul that was their sister. Celeste's smile is a memory that's imprinted in their minds forever. Aggie, after LeWay's sentencing, has been trying hard to petition for the tightening of stalking laws, and she also called for the electronic monitoring of stalking culprits. Aggie firmly believes that if LeWay had been monitored and tracked after being served with the intervention order, something could have been done to prevent what happened to Celeste. Aggie is adamant about changing the laws of stalking, because that's what she promised Celeste she would do when she was suffering at the hands of LeWay's harassment, that she would bring her justice. Celeste's family remembers her every single day. She was taken away at such a young age, and she had so much to look forward to, but her dreams would never come true. Even though Celeste's family is trying to change the narrative on stalking laws while moving on from this tragic and sudden loss, there will always be a vacant hole in their homes, their hearts, and their minds. Almost half of stalking victims don't even report incidents, thinking that nothing can be done about them and that they won't be taken seriously. And this has to change. Stalking is a serious crime, and things can take a detrimental turn if law enforcement agencies don't work to prevent things from escalating before they reach a point of no return. The world needs to be a safe place for everyone, where no one can harass or torment anyone. But this goal seems further and further away with each passing day. Celeste's case was truly a depiction of a woman who tried to do everything to get her stalkers to stop. But because of the indifference of police and taking stalking lightly, it led to devastating consequences. We can only hope that in the future things change, and that victims of stalking won't be afraid to come forward to report the violence they've been enduring behind closed doors. But the truth of the matter is, I just don't know if that day will ever come.
That is sad. That is sad. What do y'all think about the stalking laws? Do you think they're too light? Do you think police in your state take them too lightly? Do you think the domestic violence stuff with the stalking and everything else, you think it's taken too lightly? Because, I mean, she reported it. She did what she had to do. The police dropped the ball. But then you have to ask yourself, well, how much can they really do? So you have to look at both sides. You know what I mean? You can't just be looking at one side. I mean, what could they have done legally to help her other than to maybe go talk to him? I don't know. I like the plan that if you get served with stalking or you get served with a restraining order or whatever and you have visual or um text messages or emails or whatever, you have proof that this is going on, then the person should have to wear a GPS monitor. And if they violate it, they violate it. There's proof that they violated it. because many a time they violate that restraining order, they go right through it, and the police don't really act until there's been another crime committed. And most of the times, if it doesn't end tragically, it ends up with the person who filed the restraining order beat up, hurt, put in the hospital, whatever. There has to be change. There has to be. The laws need to change to protect the victims, not to protect the ones that are going right through it. You know, I'm shocked that people aren't, protesting for this gentleman's innocence. It seems these days no criminal is guilty. They're all innocent. None of them do anything wrong. Don't get me started on that. Somebody asked me earlier if I believe in innocent before proven guilty. And I laughed because, of course, I believe in that. But I also believe that there's a process that goes into making you a suspect to have to go to trial to defend your innocence. Innocence until proven guilty means that you're not guilty until the jury finds you guilty and you're sentenced. You're still culpable for the crime until you're proven innocent. That's the difference. To say that there is no evidence and there is no way that certain people do these crimes and they're innocent of it, I don't agree with that at all. I don't. And nobody will ever really change my mind on that. And I hate to be the one to tell you that out loud, but I'm very stuck on that, you know, because we're already losing our rights as victims. We're already losing a lot of our rights. It's almost like the perpetrator, the suspect, the one who's committing the crimes, they get a slap on the wrist, and the one who's being victimized is not taken seriously. And if they do something to defend themselves, take action and defend themselves against this person or persons, they don't think twice without prosecuting them with the furthest extent of the law. There's different circumstances. I understand that sometimes people are railroaded and they don't have the money and they get railroaded and sentenced to prison and later found out innocent. But are those situations everyday crime? I don't believe so. You know? And I just hope that the true crime community does a little more digging into actually what criminal justice is rather than just Googling it and trying to make an understanding for themselves and passing along the myths that have been going on for years and years and years and years. I could have been in prison 20 years ago and been talking about the law. Does that mean that I know the law of 2024 or do I know the law of 20 years ago? There is a difference. The law changes. The laws either get more lenient or they get more harsh. And in certain circumstances, they've changed so much, people have lost count of what the law really is. This was a tragic case where the law dropped the ball, it seems, because we heard one side, the families, and we heard the person that was reporting it. I don't believe that this gentleman was insane. I believe that he was deranged, but he was still culpable for every bit of that crime. He made the choice to go by the hammer. He made the choice to go by the knife. He made the choice to look up her address, the floor plan. He made the choice to climb that fence, bash the window out, climb in her room, stab her 23 times, and even leave and go turn himself in after the fact. That's what I'm saying. Without your emotions involved in a lot of these crimes, as it should be, they shouldn't be involved. Your emotions should not be involved. You should take it for what it is and see it exactly for what it is at that point. Not looking at their history or whether they had to overcome this or that and the other. No. At that moment, they were a murderer. They took somebody's daughter in 2 minutes or less. When you start siding and making excuses for the murderer, what you do is take the memory of the victim away from the family and you replace it with contempt and agony that they'll ever receive justice. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please hit the like button. If you did not, feel free to hit the dislike button. I will be back with the members only Idaho 4 case later. Until then, you guys have a wonderful afternoon or evening or whatever time it is where you're at. And please look into being more versed on the law enforcement side rather than, even if you don't like law enforcement, if you're ever arrested for something, you're going to have to know your rights, or your rights are going to be violated because you don't. You get what I'm saying? Because they're not going to say, hey, don't be talking to me because that's a Fifth Amendment right that you have. No, they're going to let you talk and talk and talk and talk. And your misunderstanding of the law could get you into serious trouble. But that's all I have to say about that. I will see you guys later on. Maestro, cue that music.